Hello, everyone. It is day 5 of rehearsals. We had a couple of days off just because of all sorts of different things, but it is day 5 of the rehearsals. And honestly, wow, a lot of stuff has gone on today. So I think there's a lot that we need to talk about. So today we had the first run through of second rehearsals
Mhm.
from the semi-finalists, all the way from Lithuania down to Ukraine. So practically the first semi-final, with the exception of Malta. Don't ask me why. They were just like, Destiny, nah, she can wait. It's fine. But yeah, so we had 15 um, rehearsals today, one of which wasn't really a rehearsal, but we'll get into it. Yeah, so overall, like, what were you guys making of the whole day, really?
I think there was a lot of highlights during the day. I think most countries improved on their first rehearsal, which I think is really really important. And on Saturday and Sunday, I kind of had the end of Sunday, I kind of had 10 set qualifiers that I thought would qualify, and that is not really the case anymore. So there's definitely been improvements, and can't wait to get into it a little bit more.
I think pretty much the same as what Jazzy said. I think what today has shown is just how much of a bloodbath semi one is going to be. There is not a single weak act in this entire semi. And there are some people won't necessarily like, there are some people won't take to. There are some that are not necessarily quite there yet, but I think every country is absolutely pulling out all of the stops here, and you can tell every singer is doing incredibly. All of the staging looks amazing. It all feels so close in terms of who's going to qualify and who isn't. And on the one hand, that's exciting, and on the other hand, that's kind of weird and slightly terrifying given most of the Eurovisions I've followed so far. It's been a little bit more clear cut than this. So I'll be really interested to see how it goes on the actual night.
It kind of reminds me a little bit like 2018 Semi One, where there were so many songs that people loved, and it was just
Mm.
like, who's going to like fall? Like it was I have no idea. It was literally anyone's game. Yeah, today for me was like a really really interesting day. We had the chance to speak to a couple of artists, which were absolutely amazing, and I just am really happy just to see that, yeah, most countries kind of elevated their staging. Some people kind of stayed at the same level, but that's just because perhaps they were kind of already, like, they knew what they were doing already. So I guess it didn't really make that much difference. Um, it is easily, though, going to be one of the most tense semi-finals I think I've ever watched as a Eurovision fan, and I'm not looking forward to it because I know I'm going to lose someone that I absolutely love, and I'm not prepared for it at all. But yeah. Anyway, let's get into our highlights of the day. Like, what was the moment that sort of stood out for you most?
I think for me, it's the same as it was on Saturday. It's still Russia. I just think this stands out so well among like the competition, and it's so powerful in like its way that it wants to get its message of female empowerment across. Like no matter what, like brand, like part of Russia you come from, how you come to have your Russian heritage. Like every Russian woman deserves to be treated equally, and you can feel the anger in Manisha's voice about how this isn't the case, and she's just so passionate about what she believes in, and I just love it. I think this is a strong contender to win the tally vote in semi-final one because it's just so hard hitting that it makes you take notice. Like you'll be sat there on like Tuesday night in the semi final, and this isn't like something that's going to have to grab your attention. Like you look at it and it makes you like stand up and take notice of what she's saying. So yeah, I can see this doing really well. Still an absolute highlight.
So I missed quite a lot of this morning's rehearsals because I had sort of prior commitments and things like that. But probably the highlight for me was getting back home and logging onto my computer just in time to see Leslie Roy's third rehearsal. And she nailed it. I know there were a lot of worries about the state of maps after the first rehearsal. And I feel like so many of those fears have just completely vanished. She sounded fantastic. The staging looked incredible. And they said that they were going to bring something that hadn't been seen at Eurovision before. And they have, and it works. And I really, really enjoy it. And it just puts a huge smile on my face every time I hear it. So the universe working to get me home in time for Leslie Roy's rehearsal, and the rehearsal being so good, would be my highlight for today.
I mean, you couldn't pick a better time really for that, couldn't you? Yeah, I have to say also, like, I mean, Ireland's was fantastic, and I'm not saying that just because I'm, you know, an Irishman, I'm trying to be patriotic or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it was a one of the highlights for me, because today there was a lot of highlights. I think a lot of people really just stepped up their game really, and yeah, I really liked it. My personal favorite though, my personal highlight would have to be Ukraine, I'd say. I know it was very late in the day, and you know, there was a lot of problems because, you know, Katerina is currently having to isolate just for a little bit just to see whether or not she can even take part in the contest, because basically, for context, she woke up this morning feeling unwell, and therefore she had to take a PCR test, and now has to wait until we find out whether that test comes back positive or negative. So instead of that, we had to have a stand-in instead of for Ukraine. And I really liked the stand-in, to be honest. She sounded really good. I mean, she's not going to be the same level, I guess, as Katerina with, like, you know, the shrills and the kind of and pronunciation of the words and stuff. But for someone standing in with the rest of the band, it did sound really, really good, actually. I was really quite surprised. I wasn't able to see Shum in its first rehearsals just because I was out due to, again, like prior commitments. But I loved it. I think it's so interesting. I think it's so forward thinking, I think is the right way of saying it. Yeah, I think that was my highlight. And I was just like so happy just to see it all come together, because I was so nervous about it, and now I have no doubts at all this is going to qualify. But yes, so obviously we haven't got highlights and stuff. We are going to run into a bit of a low light bit here and there. But yeah, what were your lowlights for today?
Sweden. The problem is not Tusa himself. It's the lighting in the staging. They only did 2 run throughs, so I'm a bit unsure whether this was a technical problem. But the lighting was so bright several times throughout the performance, you could barely see Tusa, and it was distracting. And I'm not worried for Sweden because I still think the jury would pull this through. But yeah, it just let me down slightly because you expect good things from Sweden, and this was a little bit messy on a technical aspect. Dusa himself was absolutely fine. He sang fine. He is not the issue. It is a technical issue, which I hope in time for the first semi-final they fix.
I feel like for me, probably my low light of today is Katerina potentially having COVID, because Goe would not be the same without her. I think, like, word on the street has it that her test has come back negative, but I don't know how legit that is. But I am very much hoping that she is okay, as she posted on her Instagram story. In terms of actual rehearsals, again, it's really difficult to pick out a low light, because I really don't feel like anybody has come and disappointed. And I missed Sweden this morning, so I can't pass comment on that. But out of everything I saw today, I really don't have any complaints. All I'm complaining about is that we're going to lose 6 incredible acts in this semi-final right now.
How are we going to handle it? Honestly, I think we'll all just be bumbling wrecks by the end of semi-final 1. No, I think for me, this could really quite come as a bit of a shock, perhaps. But my low light would be Israel, and that's mostly just due to the fact that it just sounded like her voice by the end, by that last rehearsal that she had, it just sounded like she was just shouting. She just sounded like as if she was like, oh God, let's just get this over with again. You know, like this. It just sounded like she was just bored or something, and so she was just being as loud as she could. And then when she was trying to reach the high notes, not even the whistle notes, but even just the high notes in the last minute, you could tell the strain. You could hear the strain in her voice, and I was a little bit kind of worried, I guess, because even if in rehearsals, she just sounds like she's just like really trying quite hard to reach these notes and then just is like missing them by like a semitone or something. It's not boding well for me. Yeah, I think like what they're doing in terms of staging is fine. Like they've got some really interesting staging. They've kind of built on it from the first rehearsal, so now she's wearing the braid crown from the beginning as opposed to the very end. Um, but it's the voice for me, and there was in one of the last run throughs she tried to go for the whistle note and she couldn't, and then you could visibly tell that that had like affected her, either in like it had caused her distress or she was just really beating herself up about it. But I just don't understand why you would deliberately put something like that in a song if it's so hard to reach. It's screaming Josh Dubovi 2010 vibes from me, you know. I don't know. Am I being wrong? I don't know. But yeah, so let's move on to let's do our sort of most improved for the day. So who do you think, compared to the first rehearsals, who do you think has improved or stepped up their game more so than the first rehearsal?
I would say Ireland's Leslie Roy. I think in the first rehearsal it was a little bit messy. They hadn't quite got the camera cuts right, and she was vocally a little bit off. And that was probably due to the fact they were having technical issues, and she was probably a little bit stressed out about it. But today she sounded really, really good, and the staging looks amazing. The cuts have kind of been sorted out now. So I think this is back in contention to qualify. I guess another song I just want to give a quick shout out to is also Romania. I think Roxanne sounds more confident now, and she looks like it seems like she's enjoying it. And I think on Sunday she sounded really nervous and almost let the emotion take hold, where she's not really doing that anymore. She is moving around less, which I think helps with the vocals as well. She was still getting a little bit breathy towards the end, but it was a major improvement from Sunday, so I definitely think it has to be mentioned.
Yeah, Romania would absolutely be my pick as well. And I think throughout the 3 rehearsals that we got to see today, you saw Roxanne get more confident, you saw her vocally get much stronger, and they've really gone away and worked on this. And you can tell, and they've done a fantastic job with it. I think probably my favorite moment of the day, possibly, is so one of the things that she'd really struggled with was that sort of final long note in the chorus, and she wasn't hitting it, and in every rehearsal she wasn't getting there, and she was clearly trying, and in that third and final run that we got to see, she nailed it, and it was such a relief to hear. And honestly, I think it probably gave her a lot of confidence as well. So Yeah, Romania is absolutely my most improved of the day. And I think that they've done a great job working with the constraints and the circumstances that they've got to create a performance that works for Roxanne's voice and her capabilities and still tells the story that the song is trying to tell.
I would definitely agree in saying that Romania is one of my picks for that, for the most improved. You know, you could tell within herself she was getting a lot more confident about where she was going, what she was doing, when to breathe, because that's one of the hardest things to do. And you could even tell in the last run through, in the last sort of, in the studio version when she does like um, don't worry if I get you because you're not alone, and then like the song ends. In each of the rehearsals beforehand, she was really quite struggling to reach that, and she was like having to take a massive gasp in the middle of all of that, and it kind of throws you out of the rhythm of it. And then in that last rehearsal, she just put it out all out there, and it just flowed really well. So then she didn't breathe in it, but she breathed afterwards, and it just sounded a lot better. But that actually is not my favorite. My most improved would have to be Leslie Roy, because I was so concerned after the first rehearsal. She sounded like at the end of the first rehearsal, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit kind of, oh no, like she can't really sing it live, because we hadn't seen her actually perform it live in a really long time. And then the first rehearsal, she was still like, obviously was trying to get the working the kinks out and stuff. But then when we got to today, the first run through was still a little bit shaky, but I think that was just for the sake of like technical stuff. But in the second and third rehearsal, she was vocally perfect. She hit all of her marks, and I am so thankful for that, because you know Ireland is one of those countries that doesn't always make it into the final all the time. And a lot of the time, we try our hardest, but then sometimes it just doesn't really work out. And this time you can see we are genuinely trying and we're doing something innovative. And the fact that like the main component, Leslie's voice, is now like back in working order, I don't see why this couldn't qualify. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but yeah, that's my most improved for the day. Um, but yeah, what's our favorite moments from the day as well?
My favorite moment is really easy for me. It comes from the Roots press conference that they did this morning, where they said that would love to go to Australia and go to see Montaigne, because I feel like Montaigne has really struggled with the fact that she's not there. She's not like presently there at Eurovision. So I just thought that was a really sweet, wholesome moment, and I just love those guys.
Secret friendship we would have never seen coming, I guess.
I'm here for it. I kind of have two. One sort of main one and one that's just slightly silly, but they're kind of connected to the same thing. As amazing as Goe's stand-in was, there's that little bit in the first instrumental break where Katerina sort of starts moving her arms like this. And it's great. But the stand-in looked really hilarious doing it. She was just like, and just looking really worried and really nervous about it. And I just enjoyed that. And the other is sort of what I've taken off the internet, but it's a tweet from Daniel ESC44. And the tweet reads, "Sending love and health to Katerina today. Hope to see her back licking ass on Tuesday."
Well, this is going to have to be an NSFW video, isn't it? Wow. I mean, I love it. I love it. But wow.
Just, what a beautiful typo.
Oh my God. Well, do you know what? I'm not saying I want that to happen, but no. It's not. Don't worry. Oh God, today we really have just gone.
Get your heads out the gutter.
Look, we've been struggling with lockdown.
Bonk. Go to Horny jail.
Oh my god.
I have a perfect meme for this when it's that when we finished.
Do it. Yeah, I think my favorite moment from the day, it's to do with Ukraine, but it's not so much a happy moment. It's more so an embarrassing moment. Because basically, um, after all of the press conferences were and all of the rehearsals were finished, we obviously had a couple of press conferences on afterwards, which happened roughly about like an hour or so after the show, and obviously Katerina wasn't there, but the head of delegation was there, and a couple of the other band members were there as well. So that was quite nice. So I was covering that as part of the kind of Twitter group because I was doing the press conference thing. And I sent in a question being, was it hard to cut down the original length of Shum from 4 minutes down to 3 minutes? Did it affect the storytelling essentially? And then they answered the question, which was fantastic, but I didn't realize that I had sent it in twice because I thought, okay, I'm going to put it in again just in case it doesn't get seen. And then they asked it again. And I never felt so embarrassed in my entire life. I literally was just like, no, I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to listen to this at all. So I was like, it was so awkward. It was so awkward. Oh my God. But you know what? You live and you learn. It's fine, but it's okay. But yeah, that kind of does take us to the end of this rehearsal day. Again, thank you so much for following us on all of our coverage and everything as well. Hopefully, we're doing you proud. Tomorrow we are going to be rehearsing we'll be getting the first rehearsals from the Big Six as well as second rehearsals from the first half of the second semi-final and Malta. A big mess, honestly. But yeah, in the meantime, follow us over on thateurovisionsite.com because we're literally churning out articles every single day. And hopefully, follow us on our YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to. And yeah, be prepared for tomorrow because tomorrow is going to be a lot. Yeah, so shall we all say goodbye?
I think there's stuff going on for like 8:20 tomorrow.
Oh God, that's going to be awful. Pray for us, honestly.
Honestly, though, we get to see Måneskin.
Look, okay. I
just want to know what they're wearing.
Keep Rosie as far away from Italy as possible, please. Ridiculous. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow. So shall we all say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye.